Hello there, Lisa here. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if this is your first time joining me. Today we are having our next video in the Let's Learn Lenormand Together series. So we're going to talk about resources today. We're also going to go through the first 6 cards out of the 36 card set and talk through sort of how I'm refreshing my memory about what each one means and sort of methods I recommend, resources I've loved for years, that sort of thing. So if that is your jam, let's get into it. So for today's episode of this series, you're going to want something to write with and on. I recommend a notebook, a piece of paper, whatever your favorite pen is. I would also like to venture a suggestion for those of you who are so bold that you have a Lenormand deck that you don't mind writing on. Now, some of you will remember this is one of my favorite methods. It's what I use in my book, Unlocking the Tarot, and it is also what I used in Tarot with Training Wheels. And my favorite pen for writing on cards is a Micron fine liner or an ultra fine point Sharpie. You can get ultra fine point Sharpies in a clicker pen, and I find them really good for this. I've been using this Micron. It's not in the best shape, so I'm kind of just using it up. And then, like I said, a notebook or something to write on. I'm going to show you what I have as far as decks for this series currently. So I have this deck, which is called the Bunny Kisses First Class Lenormand, which is super cute. This is by Bunny Kisses here in our tarot community, and this is the one I am using to make notes on, so I'll talk more about that in a little bit. So I have this one, and then I have the one that came with the cute little Lenormand set, which is currently basically my favorite because I love how simple and clean and easy it is to look at and see what I'm looking at. So I don't plan to write on this one. I did think about it though. And then I also have the paper Lenormand Oracle, which was recently sent to me for review. And I just think this is super, super pretty. And I actually really like the depictions on the cards for help to sort of remember what they mean and what they do. They do go their own way in a couple places, but overall, I really, really like it. So that is that one. But for today, we're just going to play around with whichever. I'm going to show you the one that I wrote on, of course. Now, I did, in preparing for this video, go through these 3 books for the first 6 cards, and I have some things to say about them having done that process. Now, this first book, Cute Little Lenormand, is a standout favorite. It's a wonderful resource. Again, I read through the first 6 cards. Love this. This is so good, I think. I think it's very well done. It's easy to digest, super helpful. Now this one goes, I would argue, a little bit deeper and a little bit more intuitive in flavor, but this is the book, The Language of Lenormand by Erica Robinson. I don't know if calling it intuitive is quite fair. I don't think that's quite it, but we get a lot more personal of an approach in this book. And I would say that one of the things I enjoyed about this is there is a little workbooky section, which I did work with for, again, the first 6 cards. So I've been really enjoying this. Now, when I first studied and learned Lenormand, this was the book that I used, and I talked about this in my last video. This is Rana George's book, The Essential Lenormand. I do find this to be a really, really good resource, but I feel like for just learning, it can be a little much because it gives you all of these different potential meanings for the card, whether it's like a love, health, body, spirit, money, timing, reading, advice, action. And I think this is really, really good as a resource, but I think for just getting started and getting your feet under you, I think this can feel a little bit more overwhelming and a little hard to sort of drill down to the essential energy of the card. But this is an excellent resource. I've read this book cover to cover. I continue to refer to it. I think it's excellent, but I think for the purpose of our continuing study together, oops, I'm moving my stuff. I'm going to continue to focus on these 2 books primarily. Now, what I did and what I will encourage you to do as well, since we're learning this together, is I read through the full entries. Oops, oh my gosh. I'm trying to keep my page here, people. Okay, there we go. I read through the first 6 entries and the introduction, of course, as well, in this book and in The Language of Lenormand, and I encourage you to do the same in whatever book you're working with. Now, it doesn't have to be either of these 2, by the way. There's a little guidebook. This is the Little Monsters Lenormand, and the little guidebook in here is also really great. There's like a little entry for every single card, and it works perfectly well. So you can read the first 6 entries in that. The paper oracle has a separate guidebook that I don't know if this comes with it or you buy it separately, but this also gives you a little snapshot of each. What I would encourage you to do is whatever resource you use, pick one that has a few keywords for each card, just to kind of get, like I said, your feet under you and start there. So what I did and you can see it here, I used a pencil for this, but I went through each entry and I just sort of jotted down the words that stood out to me the most as being the most expansive and flexible for what I feel like the card means. And again, I've worked with Lenormand. I actually first started working with Lenormand and learning it in 2016, 2015, 2016, around then. And so this particular concept is something I'm already fairly familiar with, so I'm mostly reminding myself, and I'm also thinking of what jumps out at me when I read it. If you're new to Lenormand, what you're going to do is read these entries, read the key themes, and based on that, pick 1, 2, maybe 3 at the most words that you think will jog your memory about what this card means. So we're going to go through this together, and I'll tell you the words I picked and why, but I did that for every single card. And I even sometimes circled words that jumped out at me as I was reading the text. And again, this was sort of my favorite. And then in the language of Lenormand, Erica has this book organized in 3 card chunks. And so what she encourages you to do is learn the first 3 cards and what they mean. Again, we have some keywords here, more keywords. And then when you're done, to play with putting them together in combination and thinking about what they could potentially mean in groupings of 3. So I did play with that. I did fill that in this book. But here's what I'm going to suggest. Read through a card entry for the first 6 cards. Write down your favorite keywords, and then on your deck of choice or on some note cards or maybe even in a piece of paper, write down your favorite words for each one. And again, I would try to keep it simple. So for mine, for writer, I put news and info. So this is, to me, is going to be news and information. But I also understand that this can be fast. I also understand that this could potentially be a guest or a visitor or a new person coming in. So that is how I conceptualize card number 1, writer. For card number 2, clover, I have this associated with luck, and I put here short term as well, because specifically clover is sort of a little bit of luck. And I think I got that phrase, a little bit of luck, from Kelly over at The Truth in Story, who does have some Lenormand content. Go digging around in her channel. She has some fabulous resources. But that's what I remember the little bit of luck kind of sticking in my brain from. But it's like a little bit of happiness. It's short term. It's fleeting. It's joy, happiness, luck. It's a good thing, but it usually isn't like around for a very long time, right? So it's like a fleeting thing. So I have luck, and then I have short term written down. And then for ship, now ship I understand to be a journey or travel or a vehicle. So oftentimes when I'm reading Lenormand, the ship, because it's a mode of transportation, can often refer to your car or your bicycle or your motorcycle or whatever it is you have as your main mode of transport. Oftentimes ship can be that vehicle, and it can also be any kind of journey or movement as well. So I have travel/journey on the bottom here. And then I have vehicle up at the top. That's what I wrote on that one. For house, and keep in mind my copy of this deck, she's fixing where the number 4 is. The number 4 is going to be elsewhere on the card. I'm not sure where. But in house, the main keyword is home. And the thing to remember about home is that it can be your place you live, but it can also be home as a feeling. So the people you feel at home with, like your home. So that can be your network, your family, a sense of security. So I wrote home up here. Where did I write home? Oh, there it is. Home here, then family and security. Okay. Card number 5 is all about health. It's also about growth, specifically slow growth and longevity. Now, again, I made these notes after reading both this book and the sections in this book. So I wrote health, longevity, and growth. I want words that are going to trigger me to the ways this can apply, right? And then for the 6th card, I have trouble or troubled, but on the card I wrote trouble or confusion. Now, typically I will view clouds as trouble or something that kind of, yeah, I guess I'll typically read it as trouble. But confusion, it can be about thoughts and having like a clouded mind as well. So that's another way to look at this card. So those are our first 6 cards. Before I go further, I want to point out that there's probably even more than 2, but there's 2 systems, like well-known systems of interpreting the Lenormand that I'm familiar with. One is German and one is French. Now, I am in no way, shape, or form an expert in these systems, and I would encourage you to look them up or look up comparisons of German interpretation versus French to see which resonates. You can usually, if you hunt around on the internet, find a list of like German keywords for the cards versus French keywords for the cards. I think that the keywords I'm most familiar with and that I most likely encounter in books like this are the French system. But if anybody out there is a Lenormand expert, please feel free to correct me in the comments section down below. But I believe that I'm working with the French system. The one advice you will read, I believe, in every single Lenormand book you pick up or guidebook you read is that whatever system you choose or whatever set of meanings that you apply to your cards, you want to stay consistent with it. It might be tempting, like with tarot, to explore all these various ways of interpreting the card, but I promise you it will be so much easier to learn if you stick with a simple, memorable, basic interpretation for every card. And most of them should feel pretty obvious, right? This is a writer, and the writer brings news. So think of Paul Revere, think of a news carrier, think of anybody who's running up to you on horseback. They probably have information for you, right? So it's news, it's information, it's something you didn't know before. It's typically unexpected, right? So unexpected or new incoming information, news and info. So that's how I have conceptualized that. For clover, we know that 4-leaf clovers are considered a symbol of luck. They also aren't around very long. They are a springtime pop-up, right? So clover is luck, but it's also short term. Now clover can also, in a literal sense, clover can also refer to plant life, nature, grass. Like let's say you're doing a Lenormand reading and you're trying to figure out where you lost your keys and you pull clover and ship, for example. More on this in a minute. You pull clover and ship. Now I'm going to say, okay, well, maybe it's on the lawn just under or outside of my car, right? Maybe I lost it. Maybe I went and parked my car near a grassy curb. Maybe it dropped out there. Do you know what I mean? Like, so you're going to think very literally. I don't know if literal is quite the right phrase, but you're going to kind of think very on the nose. There's not a lot of digging. There shouldn't really be a feeling of digging for the meaning with Lenormand. It should kind of come fairly natural as you get comfortable with it, or at least that's been my experience. So again, luck makes sense for clover, right? Now, some cards, when they have the clover, will show the clover flowers and not the actual clovers. I just do think it's interesting that these are 5 leaves. That's kind of funny. I didn't notice that till just now. But typically what you'll see is, so here we have is that a 4-leaf clover? I think we have a 4-leaf clover, a 3-leaf clover, and then we have a clover flower. But in another deck, yeah, this just has a 4-leaf clover. So it's super, super simple, right? So they're going to be depicted a little different ways, but that's the vibe. Now, ship is something that you climb onto in order to get from point A to point B. So taken literally, that can be either the actual getting from point A to point B, or it can be the thing you step onto, the ship, right? Easy, straightforward. For for house, number 4, this is simple, right? Where is your house? Where is your home? And so this is going to be, the reason I have security is because a home is typically where we feel safe, right? So there's a sense of safety, security, home, and of course our family is often what we also associate with home, right? So that just makes sense. It's literal. Tree. Trees are a symbol of health, but if that's a difficult one because it feels a little too symbolic and not literal, then think about the fact that trees take a very, very, very long time to grow. They need to be nurtured. They need to be watered. They need to have access to nutrients. They need to have their roots be able to dig into healthy soil. And ideally, they stick around for a long, long time. So let's say you were doing a reading about a relationship and you pulled the clover with the heart, we'll say heart is relationship, right? So you pull the clover with the heart. That to me signifies potentially a more short-term connection. But if you pull the tree with the heart, that's going to speak more to longevity. So you're thinking literally about what is on the card, what it means, what it symbolizes in a very straightforward kind of way. But the tree is commonly, and I would say somewhat traditionally, associated with health. Keep in mind that health is your physical well-being, but it can also be your emotional and spiritual well-being. It's the type of health or well-being that you nurture, that you care for. A tree not cared for or planted in the wrong climate can obviously die. So that's kind of what you want to think of. And then clouds, think of fog. Think of if you're walking in an area and there's heavy, heavy cloud cover. Let's say you're flying a plane and there's heavy, heavy cloud cover. You can't see where you're going. That spells trouble, right? So there's a 2-part process for me in how I interpret this card typically. Confusion, the way that it muddies the waters, you can't really see clearly. There's this idea of not having a clear perspective or a clear mind about the issue. There's also the idea that when you can't see clearly, that spells trouble, right? Sometimes we also have the mental image of cartoon characters where the clouds hang over their heads and like there's rain falling on just them as like a way to symbolize that they have a troubled mind. They're troubled, they're bummed about something. Maybe they're sad or they're moody, they're angry. I'm thinking of like old Peanuts cartoons. So what you want to do is think about these 6 cards and start to build your own way to remember what they mean. So like I think of Paul Revere with the Rider. I think of Lucky Charms always with the clover. It's just, I go right to leprechauns and rainbows and the whole bit. It's just where my brain goes. But 4-leaf clover, lucky clover, luck, easy. The ship is so simple and straightforward to me that I don't really need to do anything to remember it. Same thing with home. Tree, again, just think of growth, think of longevity, think of health. And then clouds, again, this reminds me a lot of when we see clouds in the tarot. We also see them signifying oftentimes that sense of like our mind is troubled or stormy, right? Getting a basic understanding of what each card can symbolize is important, but unlike tarot, we almost always will want to read Lenormand cards in combination with each other. Now, before I jump into the next part of this video, I want to point out that there is nothing here that I'm sharing with you that I didn't get somewhere else. And to the best of my ability, I'm going to link those resources down below. When I was first learning Lenormand, my first 2 resources were Kelly at the Truth and Story. Unfortunately, I can't remember which videos, so I would suggest, I think I just watched her Lenormand walkthroughs, to be honest, initially, and got a lot of information that way. I believe Kelly also has a Lenormand course. But my first sort of Lenormand teacher, I guess you could say, was DonnaLeigh de LaRose. I think it's de LaRose. I will link the videos that I am suggesting you watch after this video, and we're going to go through some of those exercises on video together because this is, of course, about learning together, but I want you to view those original resources. DonnaLeigh's videos are very, very short. You're going to see they're also very old. The videos I'm going to link below are, I think, are 11 or 12 years old. She's been doing this a long time. I really respect how straightforward, punchy, and quick these videos are. They will make it so, so easy to get to know what the cards mean. I definitely suggest like going to DonnaLeigh's channel, searching Lenormand, and watching anything you can about her talking about Lenormand. I think she does a brilliant job, and she's my favorite Lenormand teacher of all time. Okay, so one of the things that she talks about, suggests you do, and I think is a really valuable exercise, is memorizing the number for each card. And she will take you through that process. I will link those videos down below. I think it's a 6-part video series that will not only help us when we get to bigger spreads or like vignettes or layouts of cards or even the grand tableau, but it will help because if you ever don't have a Lenormand deck with you, you can literally write the numbers on scraps of paper and know what they mean. And after watching DonnaLeigh's videos, in fact, let's just test myself right now. I should be able to, we'll see. I'm going to put myself to the test. I'm going to write down all 36 numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 10, 11, 12, 13. Now, I watched these videos yesterday or the day before, I think. 17. Day before. 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. This is a great exercise, and she gives you some memory devices to help you remember. Her memory devices may not work for you, but after you see me do this, I would suggest you watch her videos on it, which again, I will have linked down below. Okay. So I don't even remember the memory device for this. I just remember that this is correct, I think. We're going to test if I got this right in a minute. Ooh, I'm going to suck at this. I can already tell. Okay, let me do the ones I remember. Okay. Oh, I'm already not doing so good. I don't think I even watched them all. Hold on. Okay, we're going to go. That might be as good as I can do after just the quick refresher I had. Okay, so let me go through them. Now, again, I don't think I watched them all, so let's just check. So I had Rider, Clover, yes. Ship, yes. House, yes. Tree, yes. Clouds, yes. Oh, these aren't in order. That's not helpful. Hold on, let me do the deck that's actually in order. Hold on. Okay, Rider, yes. Clover, ship, house, tree, clouds, yes. Okay, then we had snake for 7, coffin for 8, bouquet for 9, knife or scythe for 10, broom for 11, birds are 12, 13's the child, 14's the fox, 15's the bear, 16's the stars. And I think that's actually where I had stopped watching the refresher video. And she actually does these two and the man and the woman in the first video. So I'll link the videos that I watched down below as well as the ones that do the rest of the cards. But I almost guarantee you if I had reminded myself by watching the rest, I would have been able to do it. So it would be worth, I think, watching the video. I think it's really helpful to memorize these numbers for multiple reasons. Number one, because frankly, sometimes you won't have a Lenormand deck, but you can quickly make one up. But more importantly, there are actually a lot of Lenormand decks that do not print the title on the cards. In fact, that's actually more common than not. Let me pull out my basket and show you what I mean. So here's the Celtic Lenormand, which is a fun one. No words. And this, card 30, that's Lily. Now that looks like a bleeding heart to me, but that's Lily. Mountain, Tower, tree, fox, but look, there's no titles. If you don't know what you're looking at and you haven't memorized the numbers, it's going to slow you down when you're trying to read and make combinations. So taking a minute to memorize and then drill yourself like this, where you write out all the numbers and rewrite the cards over and over again like this, is a really, really good thing to do with Lenormand. I'm out of practice because I haven't been working with Lenormand much lately, and then I'm now refreshing myself with this series. So I only was able, but every single one from the videos that I watched of DonnaLeigh's, I remembered. And it's really great because she does stuff like go, okay, well, the rider's easy, right? Because there's only one. And it's the very first thing. This is the start, right? Paul Revere runs in, that's the start of something. So it's one for start, right? For clover, oftentimes, and not on every card, do I even have any good examples? There'll be two on the clover. There'll be two. But the other thing she points out is with a clover leaf has two little bumps. 2, 1, 2. So that's a 2. I think I'm trying to see if I can remember what she said. For the ship, and again, please go watch her video. I'm doing this from memory, but for the ship, she's like, you know, when you're a kid and you make waves. Well, when you turn that on its side, you're making a number 3. See, 3 waves. Ship, easy. House, that's pretty easy because it's a square, it's a box. You just put a roof on it. That's a house. Tree, the one she had for this, which I thought was really great, is she said if you turn your hand sideways, those are like branches, right? Or you can sometimes make it, she also shows this one where you, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's another way to remember tree. 5 points, right? And then for clouds, I thought this was brilliant. She says, remember when you were a kid and you drew clouds that way, right? Well, you're making a 6. That's a 6. So I thought that was really clever, and that's what she does for the entire deck. So again, watch her videos. Again, I will have those linked down below. Highly, highly, highly recommend. Now another exercise, and I will link this video down below as well, is one we're going to play with right now, where once you've got your 6 cards, now this is encouraged as well in the language of Lenormand. She has you do it in groups of 3. I'm going to say let's play with all 6, but same idea. This exercise is really simple. You want to start practicing combinations right away. It can be very, very tempting to just learn the meanings of the cards individually and then try to do all this combining stuff later. But let me tell you, if you practice combinations early as you're learning, it's going to be so, so much easier. So Lenormand cards operate kind of like words in a sentence, right? The first card is typically going to be, you're either going to be in a situation where you have a timeline, right? Where you have past, like it's showing like we're moving forward in a line of time, right? That's one way to look at it. Another way to look at it is, and a common way, is that your first card is going to be the subject of your reading, and the second card is going to modify your subject, right? So that's the method that I'm going to suggest. It's the one that DonnaLeigh recommends. And so she does this by just having a piece of paper, drawing a line down it, and this is going to be the what, and this is going to be the how, right? And so I'm going to demo this, but again, I'm literally taking this right from DonnaLeigh's video, so you want to watch that as well to get a more clear picture of what we're doing. So for this, I'm going to take just the 6 cards we're learning, right? So I'm not trying to like muddy the waters with too many cards, and I'm going to lay my first card. So I have rider. That's the what. So what's my word for this? So I've got news, information. I've got a visitor maybe. I'm just going to stop there. I'm not going to try to complicate it too much. You might not have a lot of keywords to start with. Then I'm going to pull a second card. Oh, that's already the clover. I want to mix them up better. I could have just used the clover, but I'm neurotic. Oh, I got the clover again, so I guess that's what we're using. Okay, so now it's the how. Okay, well, now we have clover. So what kind of, so this is the what. How does this modify this? So this is the how, or the flavor, or the type, I would say. I think she just says how, but I'm going to say it's also the flavor or the type. So what kind of news is it? Maybe it's lucky news. Maybe it's happy news. Maybe it's something about a short-term opportunity, right? So I'm going to say, okay, so then you can mix and match these words, right? You can put them together in different ways. So this could be lucky news, happy news, or a news about a short-term opportunity. Now let's do visitor, okay? Oh, lucky. Maybe I run into somebody that happens to have a handy resource for me, something I've been needing to move forward on a project. Maybe I've been thinking about writing a book, but I hear from a contact who happens to work at a publisher. That would be like a lucky visitor, right? Or a lucky contact from somebody that I maybe wasn't expecting. What if it's a happy visitor? This could be a visitor I'm happy to see, maybe somebody I haven't seen in a long time. This could be just somebody who I get along with really well, so it's a happy visit from somebody. Or what if it's a short-term visit? Maybe I've got a friend coming in from out of town, but her trip's going to get cut short. She's not going to be there as long, right? So then we can do the same thing with information. Lucky information, happy information, short-term information. So you see what we're doing here? So let's do another one. So we'll put these cards aside. Oh, and this is something else. Okay, let's turn these around. This is also a really valuable thing to do. So swap positions. Now we have clover. Let me move my stuff up here. I'll put these here. Okay, so now we have clover here and rider here. This changes everything, okay? So now we have, this one's going to feel very similar, and I'll tell you why, but some of them are going to have a very different flavor. So now we've got, again, luck, something short-term, temporary, or fast, maybe. Now the rider's also fast, so I'm going to put fast over here. I'm also going to put fast. This is also going to be short-term. I'm going to put news, info. I'm going to put everything but just on this side. Now this time the rider is actually modifying the clover. So I've got some luck. This is what I've got. But it's going to be fast. It's not going to stick around very long, right? Or it's going to be whatever. Now we also have short term over here, so that just kind of makes a lot of sense. Or I've got a temporary bit of something happy going on. Maybe my boss just said I could go home for the day, but it's going to come with some sort of information. Like I'm going home early for the day because he just told me that they're going to be making a structuring change or something. So it's information that also gives me a temporary piece of joy. So this is, again, a little bit nebulous and hard to describe, and it's better the more you practice it. So let's do a completely different set of cards. We're going to move this over here. And this time we're going to say we have ship and clouds. Okay, so we're going to do the same exercise. I'm going to say we have a vehicle, because this is our what, the ship is our what. So I have a vehicle, or there's a trip, travel, journey, I'll say exploration maybe, movement. So that's what this reading is going to be about, this 2-card reading. So we have the ship. And then on the other side, we have what kind of, so we have the flavor or the what, or the, we have the flavor, the how, or the type. So now I've got clouds as the flavor. Well, what kind of vehicle? Trouble. Vehicle trouble. Now that could literally mean you're going to have car trouble, right? It could also mean that you're going to have access to a troubled or problematic vehicle. Maybe you're going to be on the bus, and when you're on that bus, the bus is going to have problems. Maybe it's going to go slower than usual. Okay, same thing here. We got trip. What else do we have for clouds? We have confusion, worry. I'll say anxiety. Probably the same thing as worry, honestly. I'll say maybe distraction. So now we start to get a new flavor for these 2 cards, right? So now I could have a confusing trip. This could be a trip where the itinerary gets messed up. I could have a lot of anxiety about travel. Maybe there's something going on and I just have a bad feeling about travel. This could mean that there's going to be trouble during my travel, or maybe I'm just worried about there being trouble during my travel. There could be a distracted driver, right? Distraction in vehicle. So do you see how this card is modifying this card, right? That's kind of what you're trying to practice. But if I flip it around, and something else to keep in mind about the order, the second card sort of leaves the final tone for the reading. So when you've got a more negative card like trouble and confusion, and we're not going to worry about what a card's alignment is, you'll get a feel for it over time. Something like vehicle and travel is going to feel very neutral, but obviously something like trouble or confusion is going to feel more negative, but you don't have to lock them down like that just yet. And I don't necessarily know that that's helpful. So when we flip the cards around, now we have a worry, but that worry is going to move, right? We have worry, but what's the flavor, type, or how of that worry? Well, the worry is going to pass, right? It's going to move. It's going to leave, right? So that tells me that this worry is temporary. Great, okay? What if this is trouble? I've got trouble, and maybe I just need to sort out that trouble by going somewhere. Maybe the solution is to go somewhere. So trouble and then travel, right? Maybe I need to move from trouble and take myself out of whatever situation is troublesome or is worrisome or confusing, and I need to move myself out of that situation. So what if this is about reading about work? Well, I'm in a state right now of unhappiness or worry or difficulty, and I need to move. I need to leave, right? I need to go on a journey. That could mean maybe moving from a position where you're working in the office to a position where you're maybe doing remote work, or you're maybe leaving to go on business trips more often just to give yourself a break. Do you see how we can start to sort of interpret this, right? But the flavor is very different. The worry is the subject of the reading in this version, whereas the vehicle or the movement is the subject of the reading when you put it in this order. And whereas here it ends in trouble. The situation ends in trouble. So we're going to have kind of a bit of a negative, more negative take or negative outcome. When we move it this way, the clouds are clearing in some way. The ship is part of how those clouds are clearing. We just need to figure out how that's happening, right? So let's do another combo. I'm just going to turn the page just to keep it clean. So we have our last two cards, and we have tree and home. Okay, well, this is a cool combo. So first, we have our what? So we have health. And then we have home, which could be security or stability, right? Okay, that tells me my health right now is stable, right? My health is comfortable, I'm safe, I'm good, right? That could be one way to look at it. We could also look at this as we've got longevity, and part of what's giving us a sense of longevity, maybe we're really staying where we are for a long time. Maybe we've been living in the same city our whole life. And one of the things that keeps us feeling good about that, or how that works, is because this is our home. This is the place where we've made our home. This can be about growth, right? Well, what are we growing? Maybe we're growing our home, or we're growing our family. Could this be about maybe partnering up, or having kids, or adopting, or bringing in a pet or something? You're growing your home. So there's so many multiple ways we can read it when it's in this combination, right? But we're starting off with growth or health or longevity, and we're finishing with home, family, and security. So you can start to feel like, okay, in combination, that's what they can mean. Now let's flip them. Okay, now the subject of the reading is home and stability and family and security, right? And these things are healthy, growing, lasting a long time, because we've got longevity. If this was a reading about a relationship, the house and then the tree in this order would give me a lot of confidence that the home is healthy, it's growing, our family is growing, we've got lasting security, lasting stability, right? Really cool combo. So now let's try, just for the sake of the experiment, let's now try a 3-card reading using our 6 cards. Okay, try and mix them up a bit. So first, we're still going to have the subject of our reading first. So our subject is the writer. We got some news coming in. News plus health. I'm just going to make some sample combinations. Plus trouble. Okay, how would you view that reading, right? Oh, news is going to come about my health, and it's going to cause some worry. Doesn't mean it's bad news, but it could be that the news causes worry, right? Now let's mix this up. Let's put tree first, then clouds, then writer, right? Now we have, we'll say growth, just to change it up a bit, plus confusion, plus information. Remember, the last card sets the final kind of tone for the reading, right? So let's say I'm working on personal growth work. That's a part of spiritual wellness, spiritual health, but it's been kind of confusing and muddy. I haven't been making much progress. I'm feeling worried that I'm just not getting anywhere. Well, I need to seek information, right? I need to keep an eye out for information that's going to come in, that's going to help clarify my path and clarify what I need to work on next. And that's a more spiritual or psychological way to look at these cards. Now let's do it again. We're going to switch the order yet again. Now we have clouds plus writer plus tree, right? So now we have, we'll say trouble plus, I'll say visitor plus longevity, mixing up the keywords a bit, right? Now I could potentially have a really annoying, troublesome visitor who's going to be coming to visit and probably staying a little longer than I would like. Maybe they're coming over for dinner and they're just going to bring a lot of stress, and they're going to stay a long time, right? This card modifies this card, and this card kind of sets the final tone. So when you're reading in 3-card spreads, it starts to get really, really good. And you start to get a better idea for how Lenormand as a system works. So let's do our last 3 cards. So now we have home, luck, and ship, right? Or house, clover, and ship. Sorry. So let me put the cards here just so I can scooch this up a bit. Okay, house, clover, and ship. So I have home plus short term plus journey. Okay, well, that's pretty obvious, right? Looks like I'm not going to be living here for very long because I'm going to have to move soon, right? Pretty straightforward. So let's switch the movement. We're going to scooch everything this way, and we're going to bring ship to the beginning. Oh, no, how did I do it before? I switched it this way. I don't know why it matters. It doesn't. But, okay, so now we have luck as our subject. Okay, so we've got some luck or some happiness, but it's not necessarily long-term. Then we've got travel, And then we've got family. Well, this could be a short family vacation, right? We're going to be happy. The happiness is going to come because we're traveling with family, right? So now we'll move it this last way. And now we've got ship, then home, then luck. Or ship, then house, then clover. Sorry, I'm really bad at remembering to name the titles. Okay, so now we have journey plus security plus, we'll say, nature, because that's another thing, like grass or lawns. That's nature can be another thing that the clover can represent. So now let's see, it's about a journey, it's about security, and it's about nature. Am I going to be installing a invisible security fence? Am I going out shopping to purchase a security fence for my yard? So I'm sticking with very concrete readings because the way that I work with Lenormand, and other people please feel free to weigh in. I typically work with Lenormand in very concrete ways. So let's do one more exercise just so we can kind of wrap our brains around how we can work with the Lenormand in a very literal way, in a very concrete way. And just, again, I would encourage you to try all of these exercises yourself and make notes. Read your resources, whatever your favorite books or guidebooks that came with your decks or whatever are, and then play with this exercise. It's why it's helpful to write keywords on one of the decks, but you don't have to do that. You can have a cheat sheet next to you, like just have one to the right side, like on a separate piece of paper that you can have handy and just can refer to, or use your favorite little guidebook and just keep referring back. But okay, this is a very popular activity, but it is finding a lost object. And I encourage you immediately, the next time you can't find your car keys, or the next time you've lost your remote control or whatever, try this. Just pull 2 cards to try to figure out where the object is, and then record your results. Was it accurate? Can you make a case for how it was accurate? These are interesting exercises to do with Lenormand. And I found that they often work really, really well. Okay, so let's pull 2 cards. We're going to say we're trying to find a lost object. Where could it be? Okay, well, we've got the rider and the ship. These are both modes of transportation. I'm going to immediately say this is probably in my car right away, because we've got somebody riding a horse and we've got the ship, which is actually a vehicle. It could also have been, this is news and ship. What if my job is delivering mail? I could have left it in my work vehicle. Or what if my job, what if I'm an outside salesperson and I make customer calls? I might have left it in my work vehicle, right? Right? News or information and travel. Okay. Where's another one? Okay, we have clouds or clouds and house. Okay, where could my object be? Something confusing associated with house, something troubling associated with house or home. Did I get in an argument with my spouse earlier today? That would be confusion or trouble and family, right? Did I get in an argument and maybe I threw my remote control at them? I don't know, I'm just making shit up. But like, you can kind of do it that way. Or you could say, maybe it's literally, can be about weather, right? So you can go, okay, well, maybe I left it in my coat closet where my rain gear and my jackets are to prevent against weather, clouds, right? In my house. Maybe it's in my coat closet. This is a really fun exercise just to play with, right? Okay, tree and clover, these are both natural growing objects. I'd immediately be thinking outdoors somewhere, right? It's definitely outside, possibly somewhere near a plant, a tree, or some grass, something like that. That's what I'd be looking for. So again, I would try all of these exercises with the 6 cards we're working with and just play with these 6 cards this week. If you have a question and you want to know what's going on with something, again, try to keep your questions to what rather than why. Just to begin with, I find this much, much easier for Lenormand. Think about what rather than why. So, what kind of day am I going to have today? Okay? Or what's something I need to be aware of that might happen today if we're reading predictively, which I think Lenormand is very well suited to. Oh. Okay, I might get a call from my doctor. I might get news about my health. Peggy and I might end up having a conversation about personal growth. There might be something here about working on a long-term project that involves information gathering. Like, for example, when I studied a little bit in advance of making this video, that would have been news or information and longevity. I worked at it for a long time. I kind of gathered everything, reminded myself of everything. Okay, what about clover and trouble? Or, sorry, clover and clouds. Okay. Maybe I was a little bit mood swingy. I've been a little bit hormonal, so maybe I need to watch out for swinging wildly between a good mood, which doesn't last very long, and a bad mood. What's something else I might need to be aware of today? Oh, maybe just making sure that I bring my car keys so that I can get into the garage at home. What happens if I can't get into my garage? Or maybe I need to keep the car at home today. Maybe there's something about that. Or maybe I need to just notice when I want to go somewhere and keep my travels to places that are indoors. Maybe it's going to rain later, so I need to keep my travels to indoors. So it can be really fun to play with. It is a little bit tricky to work with just 6 cards, but next time we get together with one of these videos, we're going to have a new group of 6 cards we're going to be playing with and learning about and talking about. And then we're also going to potentially do some play and experiment with 12 cards. So I would say try to limit yourself. It's tempting to put lots and lots of keywords on. I limited myself to maximum 3. Maximum 3. And some of these I only have 2. Because the more words you write on the cards, the more words you associate with the cards, the more easy it is to have too many options. And that's actually one of my issues with the Rana George book, is that as good as this is when you're first learning, having so many words for every card, it's a lot. And then it makes your combinations kind of unlimited, and that's tricky when you're first learning. Just try to distill it down to 1, 2, or 3 keywords max, and whether you write them on a deck of cards you have handy or whether you make a cheat sheet, try all of these exercises, right? Watch DonnaLeigh's video on memorizing the numbers for at least these first 6 cards. Try the exercise with doing combinations, and then try some of these exercises for lost objects or for what you need to know about your day. You can also do this in retrospect. What was a key thing about my day that I need to remember or learn from? What's a key thing about my day I should remember and learn from? Oh, is that no matter how bad my mood is, I need to focus on the stability of my household, of my family, right? That could be one way to look at that. So just different ideas, different combinations, different ways to play. And then once you've played around about it a little bit with your keyword deck, then I would encourage you to pull the first 6 cards from a deck you haven't written on, or put your cheat sheet away if you've been working with a cheat sheet. So I'll put this off to the side, shuffle them up, and work with them a little bit more. Pull another couple of combos. Okay, so we'll pull the tree and the house. Okay, do I remember what these mean? Yes, I do. Yes, I do. So we've got health and longevity and growth, and then we have home, stability, security, family, healthy home. Or health because I have a stable house to, so there's lots of ways to play. Clover and rider. Okay, a little bit of lucky info, lucky news. Okay, a good piece of lucky news for me from my day today that I've already had is I was considering switching streaming platforms, and at the last minute I decided to double check and realize there was something very important it couldn't do, and so I was able to scramble and change things up in time for a stream I had scheduled for today, the day that I'm recording this video. So that was a bit of lucky news. It was dealt with in very short order. It didn't last all day. It didn't mess anything up for the day, or it wasn't a big long thing. It only took about half an hour to get it sorted out, but it was lucky that I came across the information I came across when I did and was able to sort it out, right? What about house and, we just did house and tree. Let's do the other 2. Ship and clouds. Like legitimately, Peggy and I just took the dogs for a walk in the park today, and it was so overcast and muggy. Like we literally put them in the car, we went to go for the walk, and we're like, oh my gosh, the clouds and the mugginess made it so unpleasant that we came home sooner than we would have. So it was a little bit of a trouble that we ran into, and the trouble was legitimately related to the clouds, the weather, the mugginess. So that's something that legitimately happened today. Did something happen with house and growth? Let me think. Or house and tree. I'm sure I could figure something out, but yeah, you get how it works, right? So play with the first 6 cards, get super comfortable with them, get super familiar with them, see if you can memorize how each one associates with its number. Look at the videos down below. I promise they won't take very long at all. The card memorization videos are super short, and she quizzes you, which is great. It's a really, really great learning tool. I'll put that down below. I will try to remember what else I said I was going to link. Anything I mentioned that I was linking, I will try to remember to link. If I forget anything, please message me or comment down below and let me know, and I will add it. As a reminder, I personally am really, really enjoying the cute little Lenormand. I think it's very clean. It's easy to see what you're looking at, and the titles are printed on the cards. Over time, as you get more comfortable with what each number means and its association and what to expect from the picture, then you might want to transition to working with a deck. Does this one have the titles? I think this one does. Yeah, this one also has the titles. Then you might want to transition to one that just has the numbers, right? Or the numbers down here, 22, 33, cross, that sort of thing. So anyways, that is today's Let's Learn Lenormand. So I've definitely sent you away with tons and tons of homework. These are just the things I'm doing. I'm encouraging you to do as well. The next video will probably be a little shorter because we'll already have laid the groundwork for the kinds of exercises we're going to do. But if I come across other exercises that I think might be fun to try, I will Actually, there's one. Before we run away, there is one that's related to one of the first 5 cards, and it comes in the little Lenormand book, okay? I'm going to actually use other cards just for, well, no, I'll use the same 6 cards. Okay. So, the author, Sarah M. Lyons of the Cute Little Lenormand, mentions this exercise, and she learned it from somewhere else, but I thought it was really cute. And it is simply a what's lucky today kind of spread. And what you do is you put your clover card in the center, and then you look at a card at each corner. Now, this is kind of an interesting technique because later when we're working with bigger spreads and we have all these cards laid out, you'll be able to hone in on wherever the clover is on the table and then look at the 4 corners to see where's your luck. Oh, I did end up with cards I wasn't supposed to end up with. I'm sorry. Hold on. So immediately I'm going to be like, oh, okay. Going to have a little bit of happiness and luck when it comes to my health and my family. Good. I'm going to have potentially some lucky news, and it looks like weather's going to be on my side. That could be a simple way to look at the 4 corners and look at where your luck is. So yeah. And you will find little things like this in the deck, or excuse me, in the book if you're working with the Cute Little Lenormand, or in some of your other resources. What Erica has you do is at the end of every group of 3, she suggests some possible meanings for a combination of 3, and then has you sort of play with some of the other potential meanings from that same combo. And she mixes up the order just like we did here live. So I did that exercise myself, and she does in groups of 3, which will work great because we're in this video series going to be working with groups of 6. So you'll get 2 sections if you're working with Erica's book, or individual cards. And again, don't feel like you have to rush out and buy these specific things. You can do the exact same thing, simply reading your little guidebook entry for the first 6 cards. Okay? So you play with the first 6 cards, and I will see you again next month as we tackle the next 6 cards and play a little bit more. Thank you all so much for hanging out with me. As always, an extra big thank you goes out to my Unicorn Fam channel members. Thank you so much for your support of the channel. It means the world to me. And for everybody who watches and likes and does all the things, I appreciate you so much. If you enjoy content like this, be sure and subscribe. And until next time, may your magic always shine from the inside out. Bye!